It's a testimony of having disability. I think many of us in this room which have disabilities have found incredible ways to cope with our disabilities. I want to say thank you so much to every single person that has presented so far. You have been an inspiration, and you are something that I'm going to take forward every single day, and so much resonated to the point that it was actually a little bit triggering. So I am finding myself triggered by the lights and by the way I'm sitting and things like that, and I feel like this space is kind enough and is the right place to say that. My ideal environment when I get like this is to lie down, but I carry on working. And we all have these ways that we have learned to cope with, and it's not always fully appreciated in normal working environments. So my name is Chirene Jelbert, not Jelbert. I'm a commercial, beside a very funny stand-up comic, of course. I'm a commercial agriculture specialist turned entrepreneur. I've lived inside the fault lines of disability and business at the same time. My disability has made me not fit into normal corporate structures, despite having a really good career. When I needed more, the corporate system couldn't allow it, because if they allowed me, then they would have had allowed someone else. So I started doing it myself. What I'll share with you today isn't theory. I'm not a proper academic or presenter, so I apologize in advance. It's a lived experience. It is a story of building, losing, rebuilding, and learning how disability can become a catalyst for more inclusive business. So, I live with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's the rare type, which is vascular. They're shaking their heads and not knowing what it is. It's basically where it affects the way we make collagen in our bodies. And I'm kind of like Elastigirl in that nice cartoon. But it also affects my veins. So when I sit too long or stand too long, my body, the blood pools to my legs and it can't push up to my brain. And my brain at times can get a little bit confused. And especially when it's really hot and really uncomfortable in certain working environments, I found this year that under extreme temperatures, it can get to the place where I actually have a full seizure. It's known, Ehlers-Danlos is becoming more well known. You'll start seeing it on the internet, but it's actually also quite new. Kind of like this movement of inclusive disability. Ehlers-Danlos, I was diagnosed with already in 2016, but I couldn't even give that to my medical aid because ICD-10 codes didn't exist yet. It was a prof at the University of Stellenbosch which diagnosed me, and the Ehlers-Danlos Society in the UK was then created in the end of 2017, 2018 beginning, and there was a focus and great movement, and then COVID happened, and we lost some time, and the ICD-10 codes actually were only given to medical professions in 2023. That's 2 years ago. So we patients which have Ehlers-Danlos tend to get a trifecta, where we have POTS, which is a fancy way of saying my heart responds and tries to push my blood up as quickly as possible because my brain's saying something's wrong. And then you can, in the middle of the night, lie with a heart rate which is like 150, 160. Feels like you're running a marathon, but obviously you're not. And it's not even because something fun's happening. You're just lying there, don't worry. So, I'm definitely not an academic. Mast cell activation syndrome is basically your immune system starts to overreact to all these different different processes happening in your body at the same time, and you start overreacting, you start getting inflammation. It's very similar to lupus. I do go through periods where I actually have to follow a full lupus diet, actually get my body to calm down and not have the inflammation that it has. And I am a founder of a business called See Fruit Differently. I still am an owner and shareholder in the business, and I started this business because because I needed a different way to work. I needed to do something because I wasn't fitting into normal working environments. I had specialized in startups because startups are crazy. They don't really notice when you're crazy yet. That's great. So you get, but every time the startup would really get to that place where there is, it's time to say scale, or I would very casually, just very sweetly give over my part and say, okay, I've done my work. It was about 3 to 5 years, then usually a company gets into a sweet spot. I thought this would be a great idea to do this myself and do it with my own business, and then I can create all the perfect systems that would sustain me to have not only a job, but because I'm an alumni of the business school, so I also didn't want to create a job, I wanted to create a business. So if I couldn't work, I would be able to, my business would be able to carry on and work for me. It didn't exactly work that way out. So let's just call it that. Lessons have been learned, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that. So I had a question which I sat with in the beginning of this year when things didn't work out exactly as I had thought. My business partners had, as I went through various phases of funding and you getting investors and so on board, you are actually, at a certain point, an investor bought in and bought out my 3 smaller business partners, and I still remained having the same share that I had before. However, they were now the majority shareholder. The majority shareholder is more traditional than myself, and I suppose wasn't as comfortable with the way I work. They wanted me to be in the office every day. They wanted me to sit in a certain chair every day. They wanted me to sit in a room that was hotter than my body could handle. I was very open. I declared my disability before the sale of the shares. It was written in our MOU, it was written in our shareholders agreement, and I learned the very hard way that despite you thinking you know what to write in the government's of documents, even declaring your disability, there's always a loophole in any contract, and they, when I got sick, tried to declare me as incapacitated. I'm not so incapacitated, I can say. And that led to some stuff that lawyers are sorting out now. So it is not something that I regret. I don't regret starting my business. I don't regret what has happened, because I think it is a massive opportunity to see when you have gone the full cycle of a business. And I had to keep telling myself it's exactly like that MBA poster that you get about where the entrepreneur gets ejected basically from the business. You get that S-curve and then you sit again, and then you might be rejected on the next one or the next one. So I followed everything they taught us not to do in our MBA class. I've tested every model and possible variation, learned the hard way, because you don't always have the money to get the most experienced lawyer or something to check something out. And I thought I had it all together, but I didn't. So I had to ask myself, and how can disability be reframed as a driver for resilience, innovation, and inclusive leadership? And how do we move disability out of the deficit column so it's not seen as a cost to the business, but that it's actually seen as a source of adaptive intelligence? I brought a little just now. There's been such wonderful speeches, so I thought I could do a little bit of what do you call it, going to the side. An example for everyone here is when I became photosensitive, I couldn't look at screens for a very long time. And that meant that because I couldn't look at screens, that I had to adapt in the way that I had worked. I had already been extremely resilient, innovative, and an inclusive leadership, built an inclusive leadership business. But it's quick how fast, it shocked me how fast the wrong investor can change your entire culture of the business from the top down. And I had to find new ways of working and to prove to myself also that I'm not incapacitated. And I managed to write my entire business plan and my entire what I found was that basically that disability had made me a better leader already. My nervous system had forced clarity. What matters, what breaks, what needs to be redesigned. Constraint had become innovation. And I found my true leadership style through collapse. It's not continuity at all costs. I had to learn to sleep and slow down for my health. It is the capacity to adapt and collapse without abandoning your identity, ethics, or humanity. I have built different businesses since in the last, it's only been a matter of months, but once you build a business, you become so trained at doing it. And I could build a business called Protea Pause, which was for me the name more about, it was my prompt to pause myself. So the rebirth of me was, my exit was painful. It pushed me into creation again, being creative, this time through Protea and Pause, which is little lessons for big futures. It's writing all the things I learned for our kids, which is why your talk really resonates for me as well, because these are things we don't learn at home necessarily. Not all of us are exposed to these things. And also through my own body, I needed to create products that are good for my health. And I've done it for years, so I created Stellenbosch Wellness, which now sells a lot of healing protocols that I have done in the last few years. So there is some very more academic things that I wrote, which I think resonates with a lot of what everyone else said today. And I'm just going to read the top, and it's basically disability is not incapacity. Disability is systems insight, and disability is innovation. So these are the things that we are missing at the moment. These are the things that we need to build into what's next. And that is a small little bit of my journey in the brief time that we have. But I am not working. Full-time. I'm now a full-time entrepreneur, and I've learned to partner with people. So I consult under Chirene Jelbert Consulting. I'm busy writing Protea Pause. We'll publish our first little book soon. And Stellenbosch Wellness is, we've developed over 40 different products, which is very, very ample for people with disabilities and invisible disabilities like lupus, etc.